Hi, everybody. Welcome to Nazo Circus. How are you guys doing? I hope everybody is doing well. Today, I have a guest. Guys, we're recording remotely, so bear with us if we have any technical issues. But yeah, so today I'm excited. My guest is based in the US of A, and I will just let her introduce herself, tell us her name, a little bit about herself, and then we'll just head straight in. Okay, lady, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's obviously taken us a long time to get to this point.
It's my
Um,
fault.
but yes, my name is Aderonke Kujore. I also do go under the name Addie Adelka, and so I do write a number of books in that name. Um, but I was born and raised in Nigeria,
Okay.
and I love Nigeria. I'm everything Nigerian. It's funny. I actually have a nickname that's called that. A few people call me Made in Nigeria,
Okay.
but I was born and raised in Nigeria. Went through elementary, high school in Nigeria, and just moved to the U.S. for college and haven't been able to leave since.
I like how you
But
say haven't been
yeah.
able to live to. So you were born and raised in Nigeria. So you came to the US. When you say college, because you know here in the UK it sounds a bit different. So would that be
Uh,
secondary school? Would that be like so you went to the went to the US when you were about 12 maybe 11, 12? Is that what college is?
No, so
Okay.
I'm glad you asked to clarify.
Mhm.
So I completed secondary school in Nigeria.
Okay. Mm.
I actually went to the International School, University of Lagos. So I completed that in Nigeria and then moved out of Nigeria for university. I think
Okay,
that's what
you
we
see,
call
see,
it.
good
Yeah.
thing, I clarify because I was thinking, okay, college, because college is okay. So you went to the US as a teenager for university, right? Okay, and did you have family in the US? Was it just you when you arrived in the US, or did you have family already in the US?
Okay, good question.
Mm.
So I actually, when I left Nigeria, I spent my first year of university in Sweden. Um, and when I went to Sweden, I was sort of alone. I had an aunt that lived there as well, but I went to school in a separate city. I
Mm.
went to school in Uppsala, and my aunt lived in Stockholm. So I spent a little time there. And it was after a year there that I moved to the US. My mom and my brother were already in the US. I have an older brother who was already in university, and my mom was here with him. So I was just moving to be with them,
Mm.
which was exciting for me because I had missed them at that point.
Oh my God. Okay, so you joined mom and your siblings, in the US, and then um can you just talk us through the next couple of years? And did you get
Sure.
married? Did you have children? All of that stuff before we then delve into what we're trying to talk about today. So I'm trying to get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So, yeah, so I moved to the US and immediately got enrolled in university.
Mm.
I went to Howard University.
Oh,
I
wow.
started actually in the School of Engineering as a computer science major, and then later on in my junior year, which is my second to the last year, decided that I wanted to spend a little more time on the business side of things, and so I transferred to the School of Business, and that's where I got my first degree. In information systems from Howard University. And then after that, I went into corporate America, worked in
Mm.
financial services for several years,
Mm.
basically doing technology delivery in various forms, and moving around, the U.S., living in several different states, and just exploring and
Mm.
trying to figure out where I would end up.
Mm.
Um, in all of that travels and stuff, yes, I did get married. I'm no longer married, but I
Okay.
did get
Mm-hmm.
married, and was blessed with two amazing children. It's funny, my kids are 13. One of them is actually taller than me. So I got blessed with boy and girl twins.
Oh, wow. Twins
And
are
ooh,
amazing. Twins are amazing. Okay, so
they
they're
really
13.
are.
Mm.
And yeah, so that, did that and then went back to school at different points. Got a master's degree. I did an executive MBA program, an executive MBA degree at Washington University in St. Louis, and eventually finished up. I can't really say finished up because I'm back in school now,
Oh my
but
God.
eventually got a PhD in organizational leadership from Regent University in Virginia Beach. And so that's sort of been my sort of trajectory from maybe from
Mm.
an educational perspective, at least initially.
Oh
And
my
have
God.
just worked in technology delivery for literally the last almost 25 years now, and love it. Still love it. Yeah.
Mm. I don't. Where do you even find time to study? Do you know my brain is so, my brain is so one. I can't combine study and work, and I am amazed when I see people who combine study, work, children, everything, and they're still sane. How do you even juggle all that? Because it sounds a lot.
It's funny. It's funny. I remember when I was finishing up maybe each degree actually, but when I was finishing up my PhD, I swore that I
That
was
was it.
not picking up another book. I was done. Don't read to me.
Don't
I'm
write
not
to me.
even
I don't want to
reading.
read
I'm
anything.
not reading a menu. I'm done.
Do you know, it's funny because so you say that and then something happens and then you just find yourself back in school.
Exactly. So
Mm.
it's funny. Since my PhD, I have done two big things, or I'm in the middle of, the second one now. I, because of my love for Nigeria, I went ahead and enrolled in at the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance in Nigeria. And
Oh
so I
wow.
spent a good amount of time just studying, studying Nigeria, studying politics, studying policy with Nigerians. And that in itself was a very rigorous and an amazing experience. And then when I finished that, I realized that I needed to do I was curious. I had this curiosity about international relations. And so
Mm.
I recently enrolled back at Harvard University, the Harvard
Oh
University,
wow.
um, for a program in international relations. And that's been a phenomenal experience as well. I'm obviously not done with that, but where
Mm.
do you find time? I think the motivation of curiosity continues to drive me. And so it's not uncommon for me that, I'm up at 2 a.m., reading research
Mm.
papers and, writing a paper and preparing for a test. You just block the time. But the content is really what drives me
Mm.
and keeps me interested. Yeah.
I think yeah, the passion and like you said, your curiosity, that would, I guess, push everything else to the side. And I don't know, my curiosity hasn't reached. Do you know? So I'm a lawyer, right? Because I read all the time, I don't even read. If I go on social media and I see a post that's very long, I don't even read it. That's how much I do not want to read anything outside work. I don't even read long posts. So I need to do better.
I
Okay.
totally
I
understand.
need to do no, you don't because you're still going back to school back to back. So you don't understand. I don't if you write me anything very long, you're on your own, I will just not be able to read it. My brain can't take it. Um okay, so we're gonna go into the main topic for today. So this podcast, obviously, it's geared towards our people. Mostly people in the diaspora, and I keep saying to people that we tend to look for people that who do great things, and they're usually people we look outside our immediate circle, right? So you're looking at somebody saying, "Oh, this person's doing grand things," but your friend or your brother's friend or your sister's friend is doing the same thing, and maybe even to a greater degree. So I am trying to talk to my close circle first before I even start looking, do you understand, way out. And that's where you come in, because my brother Obum, who is your friend, and his wife Adeze, who's also your friend, Obum said to me, "Oh, Chi, you've got to talk to Ade. She's doing great things in Nigeria." And we've been going round and round in circles, and we managed to finally today, well, let me say me, because it's my fault, I think, nail down this
No.
podcast. So I want to talk about the work that you do as it, as it relates to Nigeria. It doesn't necessarily have to be just in Nigeria, but even
Yeah.
where you are now. So can you just talk us through, what you do? I know you have a foundation, but I'll let you talk about that because that's your baby. So tell us how you even
Sure.
started, what it's called, what you've done, and then we can go back and forth.
Sure. No, thanks for that. And yes, totally love Obum and Adeze. Spent a good amount of time with Adeze, talking to Adeze yesterday.
Mm.
Um, but in terms of my service work, I grew up with a mom who always did good. So I would spend a good amount of time growing up and going with her to the remand home in Lagos, which is where they put children who were picked up the street
Okay.
or who had issues in different ways. And so I would spend time going with her to serve at the remand home. I would also watch her, sharing the little rice or beans we had with people that just didn't have anything. And so for me, service was always, top of mind and, something where I always said to myself, I would love to serve when
Mm.
I grew up. And then even as I grew up, just even being here in the United States, I would run into people that benefited from the charity or the charitable work of my great grandfather.
Oh
And
wow.
that always shook me to think that I could be so many miles away and still run into people
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
either went to his school or, he built a borehole in their neighborhood and they're still very appreciative.
So this was
And
back
for
home,
me,
right?
yeah,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, for service work like that to be impactful to people's life, 10, 20, 30 years later, and for them to not forget the good, just sort of made me more interested in serving and, doing good work. And one thing led to another. I would volunteer here and there. I do a lot of volunteering in the US as well, whether it's
Mm.
disaster relief after hurricanes. So I'd be building houses and
Mm-mm.
painting and, just doing all kinds of stuff. And when I was able to start traveling and I had a little money, I would travel to the Caribbean and volunteer in orphanages, things as little as just playing with kids or helping them
Mm.
braid their hair or carrying babies and changing diapers in baby homes. And I always, what came to me there is that there is a need,
Mm.
right? And there's just never enough people to do the work that needs to be done. So that's how I started. But in the middle of that, I just felt this impression, felt God sort of asking me to go home.
Mm.
And at that point, I'd been here for a long time in the US. And I was like, okay, where is home? Is home Africa? Is home
Yeah,
Nigeria?
where
Like,
exactly? Yeah,
where
yeah,
am
yeah.
I going? Where is
Mm-hmm.
home? Is home my village?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I wasn't sure, but I was open to going back to start doing work anywhere on the continent of Africa. The only thing that made me chuckle when I heard that was I was like, I can't afford it. I know how much a flight to Africa is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny, I called a friend and I said, I think I heard this from God, but I can't even afford it. Like I can't afford, $1,000 flight to Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
To start
and
with.
one thing
Mm-hmm.
to start with,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then one thing led to another. While I was at work, a business deal came up that forced me to go to Nairobi, Kenya, to make a presentation and to try to get some business. And I took on that opportunity. But what was in the back of my mind was that I had committed that anywhere I went in
Mm-hmm.
travel that I would do good work. I would volunteer, I would serve, I would try to leave a positive impact in any country that I traveled to. So after all my business meetings, I ended up stopping over in a slum in Nairobi in Kayole to basically teach some children that I had been connected to there how to plan their lives. So I had basically I had content for a journaling program that I
Mm.
had been doing. And I went to that school and taught them. And on leaving the school, I realized that there was a handful of girls, about 13, actually more than a handful, right? About 13 girls who were orphans in different ways, and they didn't have homes. So when other children went home, they ended up sleeping in the school premises
Oh dear.
overnight. And the school premises were really ugly. We had to jump puddles to make it in there. It was dingy. It was not pretty at all.
And these girls were in
Um,
school.
and these girls spent the night in school every day because they had nowhere else to go. And in the school, they had a little room where almost like a storage room, and that's where the girls slept. So they had two bunk beds in there, like packed like sardines, and 13 girls in there.
Oh my God.
And it just broke my heart because I said, I just couldn't imagine how 13 girls could sleep on two bunk beds, and that was their life, and there was really no space. It was almost like the face me, I face you kind of rooms in Nigeria. And so that broke my heart. And I remember flying back being in the air and just weeping and not being able to I think if anybody was sitting around me, they probably thought my father had just died or
They
something.
wonder what is wrong with her.
And I just couldn't stop weeping. And it was one of those situations where I've always said, I cannot unsee what I just saw. And so now the question is, what can I do to make a difference? And so I pondered that a lot for a while and ended up helping them out by renting an apartment for them to live in. It didn't cost me anything. It was like $200 a month. It was very little, but the day they moved in, these girls were beaming with joy. They were dancing. They were crying. Some of them had never seen cupboards in kitchens. It was like you opened them up to a mansion, and all it was a little 2-bedroom apartment, and just enough space for them to spread out and live decently. And that sort of shook me and sort of helped me realize the power of just a little bit of effort. And so we started with a little bedroom there, and one thing led to another. I obviously had to get staff to take care of them and all of that. And one thing led to another. More children were coming that didn't have homes. They would find a child sleeping in an incompleted building, or they would hear that a little girl has been raped and stuff like that. And they were just picking up these kids. And before we knew it, we ended up, having to move out of the apartment into a larger building. And that's how we started my first charity in Nigeria, which is an orphanage in Nairobi, Kenya. And as of today, we have over 100 children, boys and girls.
Okay, so let me stop you there. So the Kenya, sorry, I just got a call coming. Let me just cancel this call, disturbing my flow. So I think, because I've been to Nairobi and I went for a wedding, and when we were touring, everywhere we passed was lovely, and the next thing we saw the slum, and I'm guessing it's the same. There's no divide, like it's you. So when you say had you at that point started a foundation, or you were just like, just helping out as yourself and just trying to get people to help you do what you were doing in Kenya, because obviously we're not based there.
Yeah.
So at that point, were you acting just as, as yourself, and then with just a few people helping you here and there? Or had you set up anything like a foundation or a structure when you were doing?
So we had, when I initially rented out the apartment for them, I was just doing that as myself. As things began to grow and had to, add staff and add building space and all of that, we decided that we needed to sort of get it, basically put some structure around it. So it was after we had started that we got all the structure in there. And
So that was that orphanage is called what? So that's based in Nairobi, right?
Yes, that's based in Nairobi. It's called Aderonke House.
Wow.
And the slogan, or it's called a haven of hope. And it really is that, because, when you think about the stories of many of the children there, it's really those children that you end up running into sleeping in an uncompleted building, you
Wow.
know.
Mm.
Yeah, and they've been running for I don't even know how many years now. Definitely before 2016
Wow.
um,
So
is
you're
when
looking
we
at
started
you're
that.
looking at nearly 10 years, you know. Next year it's going to be
Yeah,
10 years. So
I
it's called
lose track of
Aderonke House.
counting these days. Yes.
Oh, I love it. I love that
Um,
name. A haven of
um,
hope. I love that. So how is that funded? That orphanage?
sure. So it's privately funded,
Really?
and sadly, I tend to focus on what needs to be done and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily always thinking about the money of it,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that, um, I'm a Christian and I believe that God will
It will
provide.
come. Mm-hmm.
And so I keep just doing what I need to do. So that's how that started. And it was
Mm-hmm.
from being in that slum
Mm-hmm.
that I got fascinated by the idea of slums,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and started traveling all over Africa to just even understand slums. Actually, what happened was when I was fascinated, the academic that I am started doing research on slums.
Mm-hmm.
And I found in that research, I found a list of top 20 or top 20 largest slums in Africa. And I actually started a tour of those slums. So I would travel from, the US. I would go to Egypt. I went to South Africa, to Ghana, and I was just visiting all these large slums.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was in that journey that I realized that some of the largest slums in Nigeria, in Africa, exist in Nigeria,
In your country.
in my own
Mm,
country. And
mm,
that blew my mind.
mm.
So, in that tour, I came back home to Nigeria and I had arranged with a number of people to visit the slums that I had seen on that list in Nigeria. So there was a slum obviously there was the Makoko, there was
Yeah, that's the one I
Ajigule.
know of. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I had arranged to visit those, and I came and I visited, and that blew my mind. And that's what really started my journey in education in Nigeria. Because what I realized is if you know where Makoko is, it's right beside Iwaya.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Iwaya, when we did our tour, a good friend of mine, Mayor, who took me on a walk there, and another friend of mine, Jide, who's no longer with us, took me on a tour. And we started at Iwaya, walking through the slum, and we were going to finish up in Makoko. But what I realized as we went through Iwaya is I had never seen that level of abject poverty.
Poverty. Mm.
um, I couldn't look up as we walked. I had to look at the feet of the guy that was taking me in front of me, because if I looked up and I mistakenly did not step exactly
You
where
would
he
find
stepped.
yourself in. Oh my
Exactly.
God.
Exactly. And so many times as I went through, my family didn't know where I was. And I kept thinking to
That's
myself,
something else. Mm-hmm.
if I fall down, my father will ask me,
Who
what did
sent you? Who
who
sent
sent
you
me
there?
exactly?
Mm-hmm. Who
you
sent you
know,
there? Mm.
and we walked through that place for a while. We actually didn't get through everywhere he wanted to show me because I couldn't. It was so
It
bad
was too much.
that it was
Mm.
too much and I couldn't. But what shook me there was what separated my middle class, beautiful childhood at the International School of Lagos on Unilag's campus,
ISL.
ASL,
Mm.
from the slums was a wall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The only thing that separated us was a wall. And on the side of ISL, it's obviously nicely painted
Mm-hmm.
purple.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all have our drivers bringing us to school and taking us home, and we have our money and we're looking good
Mm-hmm.
and everything. But on the opposite side of that wall is a canal, which leads into the slum,
Mm.
where children are walking around,
Children of the
just
same
in
ages as
of the
as you guys.
same
Mm.
ages, sometimes no clothes at all, sometimes just underwear, barely eating, sleeping in incompleted buildings. Sometimes where they're sleeping is partly wet from
Oh.
grime, all of that. And that was just a mind blowing experience for me, because I was like, how could it be that only a wall separates
Mm-hmm.
me
Mm-hmm.
and my privilege from
Mm-hmm.
these people? And in all our tours, we went through schools that were there, ceilings dropping down,
Lord.
um, tons of three-legged chairs. At that point, my children were young and learning to read. And what struck me there is I said, I know how much work it takes for my children to learn how to read here. We read every night, we go to libraries and all of this and buying books. And I said to myself, there's no way these children will ever be able to compete with my children because they don't even have ceilings. They don't even have a bathroom to go pee. Like, it was just horrible.
The stark
And so
contrast is
that yeah. And so that for me sort of triggered this need to do something. And not having a lot myself at that point, I had inquired about, oh, can we help repair this school? And they told me what it would take and how, if I had $1,000, maybe $5 would get to the kids when it's all said and done, because I had to pay the government and, give this person a bribe and this, local
ridiculousness.
oba a bribe. And by the time the money got to the kids, it was done. And I said, I don't have a lot of money, so I can't waste it in that format. But that led me to remembering that growing up, we had lesson, um,
Yes.
this idea of lesson.
Yes.
And so I said, maybe I can't repair their school, but I can provide free lesson for some of these children. And so I reached out literally on Facebook, tried to find people in the education space, connected with an amazing lady who has been with my foundation for many years, Mrs. Abiola Debola. And she connected with me with teachers, local teachers, and I just said, find the children in your neighborhood and teach them every Saturday, and I will pay you. And I started paying as little as $4 for 2 hours on Saturday for them to just gather the children in their neighborhoods and teach them. And we started with one teacher and then went to two, and the numbers grew. And we started doing these lessons in people's schools. So we would borrow spaces in schools um, and other non-religious spaces, just so that anybody could come
Could
in
come.
and get educational support. So that's where we started. And one thing led to another. I decided to open up a library because all of the space we were using was borrowed space. And I eventually, the need came up that we needed our own spaces as well. And so I had made one trip to Lagos. I brought my children's old books, and I was like, by hook or crook, we're going to find a space
To
to
put these
start our
books.
first library. And that's how we started. Part of the idea behind the libraries was I had also seen that the children that need this help with literacy the most um, don't have access to our major libraries. The major libraries are usually big, big edifices in
Yeah.
the center of the
Yeah.
city.
In
You
Ikoyi or
have to wear
somewhere.
your
How you gonna get there?
exactly, exactly, and you have to wear your shirt and
Of
look good
course.
before you can enter the gate and
Of
all of that.
course.
And so I said, if our children that need this most cannot get there, we will bring it to them. And so, we thought about what are they comfortable? Where are they? How can we bring this to them? And I thought about how many of these children walking around the street with their no shirt, no clothes, they're comfortable going to their mom and pop shops to buy biscuit or buy soap or things like that. And so we decided that we will rent those shops and outfit them as children's libraries so that
Okay.
the children felt comfortable walking in and out of them. And that's what we did. We started with our first library that is still up and running in Shomolu Bariga.
Okay.
Um, and just, it's a little shop. We painted it. We got a carpenter to make the benches and the chairs and the bookshelves. And we started with my children's old books. And we just opened it and got a staff member there to be there on Saturdays and walk around the neighborhood, tell people about the libraries. And children started coming in every Saturday.
Wow.
And that's how we started. It's funny, I always talk about how I started with just a few $100 in terms of that library. I had rented the space for a year. You know how Nigerian
Of
rent is,
course.
you pay for a year. So I'd paid for a year. I think it was about 150,000 naira. I had paid for, I had gotten a carpenter to come build the chairs and somebody to paint. And I actually didn't have enough money to finish that project that at that point, because I wasn't, dancing in money or
Yeah,
anything. This was
yeah.
all coming from my salary. And I remember the day I was leaving, I said I couldn't leave this thing undone. And so I had to call my mother in the US, and I begged her, I said, Mommy, please borrow me $100. I need to finish paying this
Mm,
carpenter so
mm.
that we can finish this library and get started, even if I'm not in Nigeria. And that's how we started. I borrowed $100
To
from my
complete
mother
that project.
to complete the
Mm-hmm.
building of the
Mm-hmm.
benches and chairs, and the painting. And yeah, and that's how we started the first library. And today we have well over 100 children's libraries,
Oh my, scattered
in
everywhere.
scattered all over the country, in almost every state at this point.
Wow.
And every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., the doors are open and children go in there and pick up books and just read. And we have other contents that we share with them. Every library has a chessboard. Many of them, they get to learn about computers. Um, every time we run into good content, just across the country, whether it's around travel or, human trafficking and child
Mm-hmm.
abuse and stuff like that, we share the content with them. And our goal is to just raise a new generation of Nigerian citizens and leaders who are literate, who are well
Mm-hmm.
educated,
Mm-hmm.
and who have a heart of service, and that hopefully will also in turn improve their own communities when they grow up.
Mm-hmm. So these libraries, every Saturday, I think you said. So there's you obviously they have to be staffed. So each one is staffed, right?
Yes, correct.
Oh my
Yes.
god! And then the books have come from where? You just because
So,
I'm just thinking the books have come from where for
So
you
they
to.
come from so many different
Mm,
places. So, like I said, I started with my children's books.
mm-hmm.
Is one suitcase of my children's books is how I started, and since then, we've gone through several evolutions. There were times where, many times I would pack my children's books back, but there are other times where we didn't have enough books, and the children have just that longing for more
Mm,
books. Every
mm,
time I would visit, they would say, can you give us more books and blah,
mm.
blah, blah. So there was a time where we would just go to the Nigerian markets and buy books
Some
there.
books. Mm,
We would buy books. We had bought new books at some point. We had bought used books from the Nigerian market at some point. Right now, I have an absolutely amazing friend. She's been my friend since I was probably about 6 years old. We grew up together in Nigeria. She's a principal in a school in California. And so she donates the used books
mm-hmm.
from her school to us. And so oftentimes, oh, my mom also used to work in a school. And so we would get their used books.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like talking about 30 and 40 boxes of
Mm-hmm.
just books
Books.
from
Mm-hmm.
these libraries. And so we'll get that from them, sort through them, and then ship them to Nigeria. And then once they get into Lagos, usually, then we sort of mail them to the
Dispatch them.
different libraries across the
Mm,
country.
mm.
Yeah.
And
So,
what age group? What age is there like an age bracket? Because I'm just thinking as we're speaking, is there like an age bracket that you target in terms of like the books?
yeah.
Mm.
So it's funny. A lot of our books, majority of the books are elementary books,
Okay.
but we
Mm-hmm.
do have some novels on the, for the older
Mm-hmm.
children.
Children.
We don't limit the age of the children in the library. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because, when you go to the north, we find a lot of teenagers, especially we have more teenage girls than boys in the north
Really.
who want to come to the library, want to read, but some of them don't even speak English, or they know very little. And so we don't limit our libraries in terms of age. We just open our doors to children, right?
Mm,
So you
mm,
can say primary and secondary school
mm-hmm.
age
Mm-hmm.
children. And but each library is different in terms of its demographic. There are many libraries that when you just look in there, it's more of the younger kids. And then there are other libraries where you see our teenage girls coming in religiously every Saturday, and they're all learning and improving and expanding their minds. It's really magical to see what happens
Mm.
in
Uh,
these rooms.
and all of this started with that one library.
Yes.
So basically, the
Yes.
books come from anybody that can donate books. But it's what you're saying.
Anybody that can
Mm-hmm.
donate books, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend, I have a cousin, I have a friend in the UK that would donate a couple boxes of books every so often, and they
Mm-hmm.
actually help us ship it to Nigeria, which is a huge help.
Help. Mm.
Um, my cousin called me last month, literally, and she's like, I have these, books and game boards. Would you like
Mm-hmm.
them? I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Please.
So we're
Mm.
expecting that shipment in Nigeria. But
Mm.
anybody that can donate books or board games like chessboards or puzzles,
Mm.
things that children can learn from,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're open and ready because the children they get through them so quickly and they
Mm.
want more.
And at that age, the
Um,
curiosity and they're so eager to learn, I'm guessing.
yes,
Mm. And so the
yes,
foundation, so it would be your foundation. So it's the Aderonke Foundation, right? That deals with that
correct.
bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Mm.
so the so we we started the work as sort of this reading program, the lesson, and then the library and stuff. And we but obviously over the years it's sort of evolved into so
Mm-hmm.
many things. But it's all under the name Aderonke Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
um but under Aderonke Foundation, we have now, I believe, about 4 or 5 programs.
Okay.
The
Mm-hmm.
library program is the flagship and the first one. um, Beyond that, as a technologist by trade, we have the library program is called All Nigeria Reads. And so that's the shirt
Okay.
that all our staff wears.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
we also have a technology program. It's called Tech Savvy Nigeria. And in that program, as a technologist by trade, I realized how so many of our children across Nigeria are on the wrong side of the digital divide. They've never
Mm-hmm.
seen a computer,
Mm-hmm.
never touched it, know nothing. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, we're talking about AI and, all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, being a technologist, I realized the danger in that, because if you don't even know what a computer is and an AI generated human is talking to you, like, you don't even know that that is not real and that is not a human.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had this thing to, this push in my heart to try to help close the digital divide. And so we have a team that goes into schools across Nigeria. We're in actually every state and the Federal Capital Territory, where we have team members who go into schools every single day and teach children the basics of how to use computers. So they take their computers into the schools, and it's everything from turning a computer on to
Mm-hmm.
using Microsoft Word, Excel, understanding the internet, and those basic things. We don't get into coding, at least not yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to make sure that all of our children across Nigeria are digitally literate. So that's the second program under Aderonke Foundation. It's called Tech Savvy Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our third program is called the Children's Leadership Initiative. And with that program, we teach children in schools what it means to be good leaders.
Okay.
Like I mentioned earlier, my terminal degree is in organizational leadership from Regent University. And one of the things I studied there is sort of leadership styles that work across the world. And so we have packaged that into a curriculum, and we go into schools again across Nigeria, and we teach children what it means to be good leaders, encourage their leadership skills. And it's teaching things like empathy and
Mm-hmm.
vision
Mm-hmm.
and community building, just all of those skills that um, make someone a decent
A
human
decent
being.
human. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same things that make decent leaders
Mm-hmm.
and effective leaders. So we go into schools and teach those. And so that's the third program. Um, we are also actually starting this year to take that program into universities. So we are planning our first university level conference at the Ahmadu Bello University, teaching leadership skills. So
Mm.
that's the third program. And then we also started to do a lot of work with out of school children, obviously with Nigeria's roughly 20 million out of school children, that began to bother me. So it's beyond, literacy. It's those children that are constantly roaming the streets and have nowhere to go. Um, so I've ended up doing a lot of research in that space, ended up advocating the bill that established the National Commission for Almajiri and out-of-school children, and have ended up doing a lot of work there. So we have maybe two or three different things that happen there. One, we started using our library spaces. We only use 12 locations now, but we have 12 locations where we offer what we call free school.
Okay.
And it's really just 2 hours of basic education daily, Monday through Friday. We offer 2 hours of daily education for children who could otherwise not go to school,
Just out
right?
of school.
Just out of school. So we're not competing with the traditional educational system. We just want to give them something for 2 hours daily. So we do that in 12 locations in the country. And then we also, from that group of children that come in for those 2 hours, every so often we'll pick some of them and send them back to traditional schools. So we pay
Okay.
for their tuition, their uniform, and things like that. Um, this past March, as part of Women's History Month, we sent five teenage girls from Gombe State back to school.
Oh, wow.
So we do that every so often. We also have several Majiri boys who, otherwise, some of them couldn't speak English, otherwise would not have, Western education at all. We send many of them back to school and they're thriving, you know. Um, so that's a little bit of,
What you
from an
do.
out of school children's perspective. We continue to advocate with the government, trying to push them to ensure that the children get back into school across the country. But beyond that, we also run this free school and try to send some of them back to school because time is not waiting for anyone. And every day out of school, obviously, is significantly detrimental to the children, but also runs a huge risk for our country at large. Yeah.
So the Almajiri, can you? Sorry, can you? What exactly is Almajiri? Is it children that are out? What is Almajiri? What does
Good
that mean?
question. Good question. So it's the Almajiri, it's a system of education.
Okay.
It's an Islamic system of education that has been there for hundreds of years, literally. And it's a system of education where families take their male children, the ones actually, they select from their male children and send them to Islamic clerics to
Okay.
learn the Quran,
Okay.
right? So it's almost like, I really love my child, so I'm going to send him out for moral education so he can be a better person
Okay.
in society. So that's the premise behind the Almajiri system. And so
Okay.
many parents in the north send their children to these Islamic schools.
Okay.
The problem that we have in Nigeria is that many of these Islamic schools are not regulated, and the Islamic leaders don't have enough, for themselves, or even, don't have enough materially to be able to care for these children. And so, for anyone that has spent a lot of time in Nigeria, you will remember seeing groups of boys, walking around with their bowls begging for money. And so typically what happens is that they get, the Quranic education in the morning, and then they end up going out and begging for, alms, money to feed, money, they end up begging for money. To be able to sustain, life and the life, life, let's just leave it as that because it does get complicated. And so those boys that you see walking around the streets in herds that are part of those Islamic schools are who we call our Majiris.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
there's also a similar group of girls that are called Almajiras,
Okay.
but they do not go as far out as the boys, because sometimes you'll see the boys leaving, Kano to go all the way to Abuja, or leaving one state to the other, because their parents have identified, a great Islamic leader there. That being said, even though we know them as the boys that beg on the street, I think it's important to also note that there are many well-educated Almajiris. It's not really a bad system. It's just where they cannot financially provide for the children that it becomes an issue.
Where they
I
have to
remember
then
that,
beg.
and they have to go and beg. Yeah. So there are many, doctors and lawyers and very successful, politicians. I think recently the head of NNPC, the immediate past head of NNPC, also acknowledged that he was an Almajiri at some point in his life. So you do end up having many successful individuals across the country who were previously Almajiris. But today, Nigeria has about 30 million Almajiris, many of them who do not speak English or have, any form of Western education. And
Education.
they pose a huge risk to the country because it is from them that the terrorist group Boko Haram
They're
actually
vulnerable.
started.
Yeah, they're vulnerable
It's
to
actually
all
where
those
it
things.
started. There is a story of how that started in Maiduguri. So it's from that group of people that it started because of false education, and so having so many of them on the street without, the proper education or the proper care that they need continues to run. Um, a more significant risk
Risk.
as their prime targets. Yes, yes.
Okay. Oh my God. So your libraries, you're all over Nigeria. I take it, so east, west, north, because we've talked about the
Correct.
north. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm still wondering how you are able to sustain or continue to obviously get new libraries. Where's your funding coming from? Apart from, obviously, I know your money is going in, but how else are you getting funding? Or if somebody wants to support you, how can somebody support you?
Sure, good question. So, a significant portion of the funding still comes from my salary every month.
Oh my God.
um, but beyond that, I do have, a few friends and families that support us on a regular basis. I have a, handful of friends that would give us $500 a year because they want to sponsor a particular library. I have one friend that gives $50 every month to support a library. So we do a lot of our donations come from family and friends or people who have seen our work. But a majority still comes from my monthly salary every month. And, you know, for me, I truly believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. Um, it's not like I have a lot, but I have seen people with less, sharing the little bowl of rice that they have, or sharing the gari that they have with a neighbor. And I just feel like it would be a shame for me not to share, whatever it is that I have. With to make lives better in Nigeria. So yeah, so that's where it comes from.
So I can say to you now, oh, Ronke, I want to sponsor a library. Can I say like a specific location? So if I wanted to sponsor a library, for example, in my village, is
Of
it? Oh, do you
course.
understand? Is it something that I
Yeah.
can determine, or is it? Do you
Yes,
understand?
yes, yeah. So today we have, like I said, over 100 libraries. Most of them I just set up myself, but we do have about a dozen of them that are being sponsored by one friend or family or the other, and that's exactly what they do. They say, Aderonke, I want to sponsor a library. I remember a good friend of mine. She's from Enugu, and she's like, Enugu is my village. That's where I wanted. And we took our team, we did the research, we found Enugu, we went there, we toured the place, we found space that was conducive for a library, and we set up that particular library in the memory of her mother's in celebration of her
Absolutely.
mother's 80th birthday. Right? That was what kicked it off for her. So yes, so anybody really across the country can tell us, oh, we want a library in, Umahia or
Yeah.
Shogo or wherever it is you're from. And because we have teams all over the country, we'll go to this specific village and find a space and set up a library and announce it to the local people so that they can start coming there. And then we send you pictures on a regular basis so that you see the
The
value of what
progress.
your work is doing. And we typically ask that sponsors like that commit to the equivalent of 500 US dollars a year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Um,
ask. So that's the basic.
yeah,
The basic.
yeah, it,
Okay.
it allows us to rent the space, sort of paint it, get the books, the bookshelves, and also pay a librarian just a little stipend every
Mm-hmm.
week for them being there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just covers their transportation, but they look forward to it. So so it allows us to do all of that for a year. So it's
Mm.
sort of an annual renewal, just
Thing.
to make sure that we
Mm-hmm.
have funding to pay them to be there and help with the kids every Saturday.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And if somebody wanted to contact you, would it be, is there like a website, or I know you're on Instagram, but how do people contact you? How do people who don't know you contact you?
Sure,
Contact the
good question.
foundation. Mm.
Yeah, so the foundation is at www.aderonkefoundation.org,
Mm-hmm.
www.aderonke foundation.org,
Mm-hmm.
aderonkefoundation.org.
Mm-hmm.
But they can also just Google Aderonke Kujore or, Tech Savvy Nigeria or All Nigeria Reads. And we're
Mm-hmm.
both on, you know, Instagram and also on the web.
Okay. I think with the description for this podcast, I will get all that information from you and put it there as well. Um, because I know that you're humble. I know you don't want to ask, but you've got to, cause it's a lot for you to try and do. So the more exposure and awareness, because if people don't know, people don't know. Do you understand? Like, if I didn't have this
Yeah.
conversation with you, I wouldn't even know all that I know now in terms of, getting this library. Because I feel like that's something most of us that are out here can do. Do you understand? Just get a library in your village or wherever you want to get your library, and sponsor it and commit to it. That way, we're helping people back home. I think also for me, what scares me is I always think, oh my God, I need like a massive amount of money to make a change. But just listening to you, I've just seen how it can be anything. You can start very small. It doesn't have to be anything grand.
Yes.
And that, goes a long way. I think I've got one last question for you. What has
Right.
been your biggest challenge with setting up in Nigeria, setting up, libraries and all this? What has been your one biggest challenge?
Um,
Okay, not one, a
there's so
few,
many.
a few. Let's talk about a few of your major challenges.
Yeah, there's so many. The
Mm,
two that come to mind for me right now would be one, obviously funding. There are
mm-hmm,
times where, life happens and life is hard, and I start thinking to myself, oh, do I need to scale back because, you know, I can't afford,
mm-hmm,
um, to pay for what we need to pay, rents and stipends and
mm-hmm.
shipping books and stuff. So there are times where I've thought about should I scale back because it's financially
It's a
burdensome
lot.
on me and my family.
Yeah.
um, but besides that, they call it the Nigerian factor. um, Managing staff. As you can imagine, we have hundreds of um, people working for the
Mm-hmm,
foundation across the country in every state.
mm-hmm.
And we struggle between, access to internet because every time they go and work, they have to submit their reports. So we
Mm.
struggle between access to internet and just fraudulent people in
Yeah. Okay.
Nigeria.
That one you can't get away from. They will show you who they are. But okay.
So yeah, so we have to like put in so many different checks and balances,
Mm, mm,
surprise visits,
mm,
just really looking at their pictures to make sure pictures aren't being doctored,
mm-hmm.
following up, calling them while they're there. So a lot of the management sometimes is burdensome because these people know that this money is coming from my salary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes the management is burdensome because they just feel like they need to take from wherever
Yeah, they
is
see. Yeah,
possible,
yeah.
wherever they see. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
But we've learned that you can't let one bad person or one bad egg
Mm-hmm.
stop
Stop
you
you.
from doing
Mm-hmm.
all the good that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we have processes in place to curb a lot of that, and just keep going
And just
because
keep pushing.
it matters to the
Yeah.
children.
You just have to keep pushing. And do you think that you've gotten support from people back home, like people who can help? I'm talking about people in government, and do you understand? People in places who can help. Do you think that, what's been your experience with that?
Sadly, I don't feel like we've gotten support from people who
Mm.
can help in Nigeria. I think there's a perception that when you're in the diaspora that you have it all together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it's so difficult for them to release funds to help anything that, somebody in the diaspora is leading.
Yeah,
Um,
okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Since
yeah,
you're abroad, why should we help you when you are in the abroad, as they like to call it? Mm.
exactly,
That's sad though.
exactly.
That's really sad because that's not looking at the bigger picture.
It is really sad
Yeah.
because one of the things I've thought about is that if one well to do person in
Mm-hmm.
every state committed to doing what I'm doing just for the children in their state,
Mm-hmm.
we will cover every single neighborhood.
Ground, yes.
My goal is to make sure that there's a library in walking distance to every child,
Mm.
and that every child has basic technology education and leadership education, right? If one person, one decently wealthy person in every state commits to doing that or to funding that, Nigeria will not have a problem.
Yeah,
But the
would
problem
not.
is many of them just close their eyes to it. Or when they find out that somebody in the diaspora is doing it, they think, oh, they're overly wealthy. It's not their
Yeah,
problem.
it's not their problem. And it's
Yeah,
everybody's problem.
it is
It's
everybody's
everybody's
problem.
problem.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've learned. Can I just ask you? I know we're not supposed to ask ladies their ages, so, but how old are you? I,
So I'm actually very open with my age. I'm
yeah.
44.
Okay.
I just turned 44 last weekend, actually.
Yay! Happy
And
birthday! Happy belated
thank
birthday!
you. Thank
Mm.
you.
I just thought
Thank
I'd
you.
ask you because I was thinking I just needed to know your age. I'm just like, how old is this woman that's doing these amazing things? Oh my
Yeah, and
God!
I feel like I'm 15.
You sound
And
15.
so
Plus, you've got energy of a 15-year-old if you're doing all these things and studying and raising your kids and everything else. Oh my God, Aderonke, it's been amazing talking to you. I'm going to reach out to you, get the links, spread the word because I feel like awareness is key. And I know that awareness is key because the more people know, the more people can then decide how they want to help. Because I think most people want to help, they just don't know where or how, or nobody's told them. So we just do the basic things and we forget that there's more things that we can do.
yeah,
So I will put all that information in the description. And I want to just thank you. I think you are amazing. Um,
thank you.
and you can't stop going. You've started it now. How can you even stop?
No,
But
it's
you have to look after
yeah.
yourself as well. If it gets too much, you need to take a break for a little bit and then come back.
Yeah,
Um,
no, we can't stop. When I
yeah.
think about the thousands of children that are benefiting from this every single day, we can't stop. So we learn to rest as we go along and, ask for support in holding us up as we go along. But we're not stopping. We're going to ensure that our vision and our mission is accomplished and
Absolutely.
we have a better Nigeria that we can all be proud of one day.
Absolutely. Ah, my darling, thank you so much for taking out time to talk to me today. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, to
Thank you
everybody,
for having me.
do you have any last words for our people listening?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me and thank you for having me. And if all of us just did our little part,
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria would be a much, much better and much, much beautiful place.
Yeah,
I believe in the potential of Nigeria.
that's beautiful. I agree with you. I agree with you. Okay, to everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. Please, please, please read the description for how you can reach Aderonke Foundation, how you can support or reach out to me if you can't be bothered. Reach out to me how you can support in any way, whether by donating books or financially, whatever. If you want to sponsor a library, reach out to me and I can connect you to Aderonke directly if you prefer to do that. Because I know you people are too lazy to search things on the internet. So reach out to me. And yeah, thank you. for listening. Please comment, please share. Until next time, I am sending you peace, love, be safe. Take care, everybody. Bye.